It's going to be both on Twitch and YouTube. But it's going to be a 4 or 5 part series called Mastering the Dungeon. We're just going to go through, today we're going to go through the 5 pillars of pretty much a 30,000 foot view of what dungeon mastering is. So yeah, grab your dice, grab your what's left of your sanity, because it's going to be completely gone by the end, and saddle up and let's get this show on the road. Tip number 1, know your world. First and foremost, immerse yourself in the lore of your campaign setting, whether it's one of the published ones or, like I tend to do, is just shoot from the hip and just go. Whatever you're feeling, whether it's a published title, like I said, or feel free to rip off from common media sources, because that's what they're there for. It's like that's what Gary Gygax, the original creator of Dungeons and Dragons, wanted us as the DMs and us as the players to do, is take from your creativity and your imagination and other more famous writers, and take from their imagination and combine it and make and weave and make our own stories and write our own adventures and such. But yeah, just understand your history of, well, a brief history. Again, it doesn't have to be much. You can start with 2 or 3 words, and slowly, as the players evolve and as you evolve, and as a DM, you make things happen. For sure. Tip number 2: dynamic NPCs. You're gonna wanna NPCs. I guess this will be the next video in this series, dissecting what each of these terms mean. NPC basically is non-playable character. So your players, your friends, your family, Steve, who you invited over to play a game, this weird game with dice and pencils and paper and stuff on the PlayStation Tube or whatever you guys play on nowadays. They play PCs, they play player characters, they play adventurers, and NPCs are, I like to use them as kind of markers and kind of wayfinders and kind of navigational tools or support in a battle or what have you, to help the players kind of advance their skills and kind of learn the basics before they get killed later on for dramatic plot hooks. But dynamic NPCs. You can have a couple one-dimensional NPCs, or one kind of one-off or one-purpose NPCs. But like in one of the campaigns I'm DMing means dungeon mastering. I've got 2 or 3 romances happening, going back and forth, kind of playing with that type deal. I've got 2 or 3 businesses being run. I've got 2 or 3 business associates. The cleric in my party is in charge of an egg business, right? Kind of like a play on Chick-fil-A. So, and then another one of my players runs an inn/hotel and a thieves guild. So it's kind of another one of my players runs a wagon business with his soon-to-be wife in the game. Tip number 3 is flexible storytelling. I do this a lot as well. Tip number 3. I'll have the night set in stone. I'll have like a 3-hour night set in stone, 4-hour night set in stone, and what the players will do is come the night of and just completely just go the opposite direction. I have everything planned for them going left, and they go right. Often happens in real life as well. So just be prepared to adapt your story based on your player weaknesses, your player strength, your story strengths and weaknesses. And it's not always about the players. Like, your strengths and weaknesses. Don't be afraid. Maybe you thought this was a good idea, and later on you're like, okay, no, I definitely cannot run a male. I cannot run a half orc in a town setting, because there's just too much going on with whatever. It's just, you figure out what's good for you. Number 4, tip number 4 is, I've probably done this in this video or the stream, depending on where you're watching this, is pacing is key. Don't be afraid to over-exaggerate and show off with your pomp. Kind of your get into it a little bit, right? You're in the end, you're a storyteller, and the story or the game is only as good as you. D&D is a very audible game. You gotta speak. You gotta act out your emotions, because ultimately it is a theater of the mind type game. So pacing is key. Don't be afraid to draw out the villain's monologue or describe the scene. Maybe you're walking in. You have the party walking into a cave, and you're trying to go for like a jump scare. So what you'll do is you'll turn down the lights. Maybe if you have dynamic lighting, you'll lower your voice to kind of a warm, kind of a welcoming to kind of soothe them in, and you'll turn down the music. As you walk into the cave, the critters that kind of evade your torchlight run into the caverns deep below, and as you kind of make your way through the caverns, kind of getting a glimpse of your surroundings, the only sound is your metal armor of the fighter clanking and reverberating into your eardrums. As you get a glimpse of your surroundings a little bit more, you notice that, look, you are not alone. You are being watched. You are being studied. For in the shadows, 2 golden, round, orb-like eyes penetrate through the shadows and gaze at you as if looking at its next meal. So yeah, that's just pacing. Pacing is key. Pacing is key in Dungeons & Dragons. Tip number 5: encourage creativity. Don't railroad your characters. I'll get into that'll be another term I discuss later on. But railroading is, don't sacrifice player agency or player creativity for your own. I am guilty of this too. If any of my players are watching this, then they definitely understand, and I apologize. But don't be afraid to railroad don't be afraid to railroad your characters. Don't do that. Don't be afraid to let your characters, if they roll a nat 20, which happens very rarely, it's the best you can do. It's an automatic hit. It's a critical hit. Don't be afraid to let the players describe their killing blows, or describe how they fire an arrow through a crevice and just narrowly avoiding the boss's shield and hitting them right between the eyes and knocking them out prone. Don't be afraid to let them express their emotions as the character, and don't be afraid to let them monologue a little bit, just as long as it's not holding up game time that you maybe had something planned. And there it is, 5 tips that kind of start a 30,000 foot view, as I said in the beginning, of how you can be a better dungeon master. Again, these are just basic starting terms. I'm going to probably crank out 4 or 5, 6. I don't know. That's what I'm doing. More of these videos to kind of help you start your journey as a DM. So yeah, they'll be on Twitch first, and then I'll do a little editing and send them over to YouTube. So if you want the raw, just uncut version, it's over here on Twitch. But then if you want the flashy with all the, well, I'm gonna go that far. A little fireworks and a little this and that, go to YouTube. I'll definitely, bookmark the different things in the YouTube video so you can kind of sort and write down and do whatever you need to do. But yeah, if you like this video, follow me on Twitch, subscribe on YouTube, like the video, because I heard that helps, and yeah, you guys are great. I hope you really enjoyed. I'll see you on the flip side.